Welcome to the podcast. If you'd like to listen to an ad-free version of this episode and all of our episodes, then search True Crime Today Premium Plus on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. That's our premium channel where all of our ad-free and advanced episodes live, all in one place. True Crime Today Premium Plus. Search it on Apple Podcasts and press subscribe. Even try it for 3 days free.
You're about to take a deep dive into one of the biggest true crime cases in the universe. Or, at least, on our part of the planet. From the Hidden Killers podcast and True Crime Today.
Ever been to one of those parties? You know, the kind where you're rubbing shoulders with celebrities, the music's pumping, and the whole scene just feels larger than life.
Now imagine that same party, the epicenter of cool, becomes the center of a massive scandal. That's what we're diving into today. The allegations against Sean Diddy Combs. And how they're sending shockwaves through, like, the entire entertainment world.
It's not just about one party, though, is it? What's got everyone talking is the potential pattern of behavior these allegations are pointing to, years of rumors. But now we're talking about over 120 individuals represented by attorney Tony Buzbee. That's not a small number. And Buzbee, he's known for taking on cases that make headlines.
This isn't just whispers anymore. So for those who maybe haven't been glued to this story, who is Diddy? And what exactly is he facing? Sean Diddy Combs, he's practically like synonymous with success in the music industry, right? Rapper, producer, entrepreneur, you name it. But now he's staring down accusations of sexual misconduct, coercion, even allegations involving minors. The sheer variety of it is disturbing. But what's really caught my attention is the consistency across the board.
You're right, because these accusations aren't coming from a single source. These are people from all walks of life, all alleging very similar experiences.
Exactly. And that makes these so-called freak-off parties Diddy was known for, they become even more significant to the case.
Okay, so I have to ask, what made these parties different? Because freak-off sounds intense is one word for it.
Think of it this way. Imagine a party, but the guest list is A-list celebrities. The music is deafening, the atmosphere just oozes exclusivity, add in the free-flowing drugs and alcohol. You start to get a sense of what these events were allegedly like.
That sounds more like a recipe for disaster than a party.
That's precisely the point. Many accusers describe feeling trapped in these settings, like they were pressured to engage in behavior they were uncomfortable with. The lavishness, the exclusivity, it all contributed to a sense that these parties operated by different rules where consent could be easily manipulated.
And that's where the real danger lies, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not just about a party, it's about the alleged system of coercion and control that these parties enabled.
Absolutely. You have Diddy, a man with immense power and influence in the music industry, allegedly using these events to exploit vulnerable individuals, many of whom were just starting out in their careers.
So it's less about partying and more about preying.
That's the allegation. And several accusers describe not only experiencing or witnessing misconduct at these parties, but also being threatened afterwards. This wasn't just a case of what happens at the party stays at the party. It was about silencing anyone who dared to speak out.
And that fear, that pressure to stay silent, it makes you wonder just how many people might have been affected over the years. The accusations we're seeing now, they could just be the tip of the iceberg.
That's a chilling thought, and it points to a much larger problem that we see time and time again, not just in Hollywood, but in many industries. When you have a powerful figure like Diddy at the top, that power, it can easily be used to silence and intimidate.
It's like a dark side to the whole idea of mentorship, you know?
Yeah.
Someone in a position of power using that to their advantage in the worst way possible. And speaking of power, this situation gets even more complex because it's not just Diddy in the spotlight, is it?
Not at all. Buzbee, the attorney, he's hinted at other big names, some of whom have already settled out of court.
So how does that work? If you settle, does that mean you're admitting guilt? Or are you just making the problem go away?
Settling doesn't equal guilt in the eyes of the law. It's a way to resolve the issue without a trial, without admitting liability. But
So these settlements, while they might protect these celebrities from public trials, it doesn't actually mean they're off the hook entirely.
precisely. Settling a civil suit is one thing, but there's a parallel federal criminal investigation underway here. That throws a wrench into things. And the feds, well, they play by a whole different set of rules.
Okay, so now we're talking about potential criminal charges. That's a whole other level of serious. What exactly does that mean for these celebrities who maybe thought they were in the clear?
It means the feds are looking for the truth, regardless of who they might catch in the crosshairs. They don't care about NDAs, hush money. They're focused on uncovering criminal activity. And that puts these settlements in a whole new light, doesn't it?
It does. Because on the surface, a settlement, it seems like the end of the story. But you're saying this investigation could unearth even more, maybe even lead to charges despite a settlement.
That's the gamble these individuals are taking. And let's not forget the pressure they must be under. Watching this all unfold, knowing their names could surface at any moment. Some of them have gone to great lengths to keep things quiet.
Right, like the musician and the actor you mentioned earlier. Are there any more details on how they're connected?
We have to be careful here. Buzbee has been strategic in not naming names just yet. However, rumors are swirling through Hollywood. And where there's smoke, there's often fire. The musician, once a chart topper, he's practically vanished from the public eye. No new music, no appearances.
Laying low, hoping this all blows over.
It's a possibility. And then there's the actor. Household name, big budget films, suddenly withdrawing from projects, citing scheduling conflicts. Their team is working overtime with damage control. But these sudden shifts rarely go unnoticed.
It paints a picture of just how high the stakes are here. Not just for Diddy, but for everyone who might be implicated. But let's go back to those freak-off parties for a moment. You described the atmosphere earlier, but I'm still trying to grasp what it must have been like to be there in that environment.
Imagine walking into a room, pulsating with music, a sea of familiar faces, everyone seemingly carefree. On the surface, it's intoxicating, alluring. But beneath that veneer of freedom, there's this undercurrent of something darker. The knowledge that these parties weren't bound by the same rules as the outside world.
It's like that saying, if it seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Exactly. And remember, leaving wasn't as simple as just walking out. Security was tight, allegedly making it difficult, if not impossible, for some to leave, even when they felt uncomfortable. One accuser said it best. The doors were locked. You either played along or you got out.
That's bone-chilling, because it speaks to a very calculated kind of control. And it wasn't just about what happened at the parties. It's the alleged aftermath that's equally disturbing. The threats, the intimidation.
Precisely. It's important to remember that Diddy, in many ways, he held the keys to success in the music industry. Aspiring artists, young, eager to make their mark, they viewed him as a gatekeeper, a mentor. To have that power allegedly used against them, to silence them, it's a horrific abuse of trust.
It really makes you question how much of this alleged behavior was allowed to continue. Because of that power dynamic, the fear of speaking out against someone like Diddy, what are the potential consequences for him if these allegations are proven true?
The charges against him are incredibly serious. We're talking sex trafficking, racketeering, and potentially more. These aren't just slaps on the wrist. We're talking potential decades in prison.
And what about the other celebrities who've been implicated? Those who've settled and those who remain unnamed. What are they facing?
For those who settled, there's always the possibility that the federal investigation uncovers new information, leading to charges despite those settlements. As for the others, the fear of exposure, the damage to their reputations and careers, it's a very real threat. The court of public opinion can be just as unforgiving as any courtroom.
And this isn't just about one man's downfall or a handful of scandals, right? This feels much bigger, like it's exposing a systemic issue within the entertainment industry.
It absolutely is. This case has ripped the curtain back on the power imbalances, the pressure to stay silent, and the potential for exploitation that runs rampant in this world.
It's almost like we're seeing a domino effect, where one person speaking out gives others the courage to come forward. But where does it end? What needs to change to prevent this from happening again and again?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's about changing the system, not just punishing individuals. We need a culture where speaking up is encouraged, not feared, where there are clear and safe channels for reporting misconduct.
And accountability at every level, right? It can't just be about protecting the powerful. It has to be about protecting everyone.
Exactly. This case has been a harsh reminder that fame and fortune, they don't excuse anyone from basic human decency. And it's up to all of us, those within the industry and those who consume its products, to demand better.
Absolutely. This deep dive has been a lot to process. But it's so important to shed light on these stories, to talk about them, to keep asking questions to our listener.
Right.
What are your thoughts? What's resonating with you most as we unpack this complex situation?
It's definitely a lot to unpack, but one thing that keeps sticking with me is the bravery of those who have come forward. These accusations span years. And it makes you wonder how long this alleged behavior might have stayed hidden if those voices hadn't been heard.
It's a testament to the power of speaking your truth. Even when it's difficult, even when it seems like the whole world is against you, Their courage has the potential to spark real change, not just in the music industry, but in any field where these kinds of power dynamics come into play. You mentioned change, and earlier you talked about systemic issues. What concrete steps can we take to create a safer, more equitable environment in the entertainment world and beyond?
Well, I think it starts with transparency and accountability. We need clear reporting mechanisms for misconduct that protect those who come forward. And just as important, consequences. Consequences for those found guilty, regardless of their status or influence.
No more sweeping things under the rug, no more protecting the power.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture where everyone feels safe and empowered to speak up, knowing that their voices will be heard and taken seriously.
And that's not just on the industry to figure out, right?
Right.
We as consumers have a role to play too.
Absolutely. Our choices matter. Who we support, what we consume, the conversations we engage in, it all adds up. We can't just consume entertainment passively. We need to be critical thinkers, asking questions about the content we're consuming and the people behind it.
So as this Diddy case continues to unfold, what should we be paying attention to? What are the key things you're watching for?
I'd say keep an eye on the federal investigation. That's where we'll likely see the most significant developments. Will more names surface? Will there be more charges filed? And perhaps most importantly, will this lead to lasting change within the industry?
It's almost like we're at a crossroads, a moment of reckoning for the entertainment world. Will this be a turning point, or will it be business as usual? Only time will tell.
One thing is for sure, though. This case, it's ignited a conversation that extends far beyond Sean Diddy Combs. It's a conversation about power, accountability, and the responsibility we all share to create a world where exploitation and abuse have no place.
Well said. This deep dive has been heavy, but it's so important to have these difficult conversations, to shine a light on the dark corners of any industry, and to advocate for a safer, more equitable world.
And remember, you don't have to be an expert or a celebrity to make a difference. Speak up, listen to survivors, and challenge those in power to do better.
To our listener, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's been a complex and unsettling situation, to say the least. But we encourage you to continue exploring these issues, asking questions, and using your voice to create positive change.
Because silence only benefits those who seek to exploit it. Let's break the silence together and build a brighter future for everyone.
In a world where the darkest secrets lie just beneath the surface.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence says otherwise.
Where hidden killers roam, unnoticed, in the shadows.
I think you would definitely be looking at a blend of toxic, very bad narcissistic personality traits, and they will be vengeful and possibly resort to violence.
Join Tony Buzbee as he uncovers the truth behind the most chilling cases.
They said it was an accident, but the evidence clearly says otherwise.
Each episode, we dig deep into the minds of those who commit the unthinkable.
To your point on narcissism, he thinks in his own mind how witty he is.
Yeah.
But he lost that jury. I was done with him in 2 minutes.
From unsolved mysteries to infamous crimes.
Geez, you've just talked about how you taught yourself how to do everything under the sun. I bet you did a YouTube video, how to best kill somebody with a knife.
Hidden Killers with Tony Buzbee takes you where few dare to go.
How does someone with such a dark secret go unnoticed for so long?
With multiple new episodes every single day.
We're not just telling stories, we're seeking justice.
Listen now on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. Just search for Hidden Killers with Tony Buzbee.